Hello, I'm BabyXSlick and welcome back to the video. Today I want to talk about something pretty big regarding Minecraft on the console. If you don't know, the biggest issue facing Minecraft console right now is the divide between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One version of the game. Sony has refused any and all attempts to make the PlayStation 4 crossplay with any other platform, and this means that essentially the PS4 is now playing a different version of the game, one which doesn't have all of those brand new things, and it's such a weird thing where there's essentially different versions of the game because of this one big divide in Sony's policy. Well, basically, Sony's responded several times about why this is. They've given lots of reasons that have been proven to be false, but this is the biggest damnation in all of that I feel like forces Sony's hand, because a game, Fortnite, accidentally turned on crossplay between PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and I want to talk about that in today's video because it's such a ridiculous, final blow to the Sony argument that I want to talk about it in the video and explain why this is such a big deal, that hopefully you all do enjoy it. So like this video if you do like it, because it helps out the channel a lot, and listen, you do enjoy these sorts of videos, but let's get straight into it with the latest news, and then I'll talk about the whole story, because it's kind of a weird one how this has gone back for so many months, because basically the game Fortnite, it's a game by Epic Games. They make Gears of War, a lot of people know them, but basically they made a game called Fortnite, and they added a game mode to that game, kind of like PUBG, where it's called Battle Royale, and everyone's got to fight in their, an arena, 99 players go in, 1 player comes out. It's really fun. I've been streaming it a lot. I'll be streaming it later today. You might want to check it out. But essentially in this game, they accidentally had crossplay enabled this entire time, and it was something that people didn't even notice until just yesterday. And at around midday in the UK, Eurogamer published an article saying that PlayStation 4 and Xbox One cross-platform was switched on in Fortnite, and this was confirmed via Reddit, where a lot of people have been playing with gamer tags which didn't make much sense on the Xbox, and PSN IDs which didn't make sense on the PlayStation. The biggest example where they kind of proved this was where basically a lot of gamer tags from the Xbox were showing up on the PlayStation, and you might be curious, like, oh yeah, maybe it's just the same thing. Well, essentially on PlayStation, you cannot actually have any spaces in your PSN ID. There are very strict rules on what you can do, but the Xbox does not have this same restriction, which means that when you see a gamer tag with spaces in it, it must be an Xbox gamer tag, which is something that you can see in particular gameplay. And then when they went into this even further, they actually did some checking on certain gamer tags, and they couldn't find them on the PlayStation 4 when they were playing on the PS4, but they could find them on the Xbox One. Then again, the people in the subreddit, pretty smart people, they went and they actually checked if they could play different platforms at the same time by searching at the same time, and a father and son were able to play with each other despite being on different platforms. So this was a really big deal because it confirmed that crossplay had happened for the first time ever in a game that had not even announced it, which was kind of big. And honestly, I assumed at the time, you can even see my tweet, that like, oh yeah, this is probably an accident, they're probably going to have to turn it off later on the time. And as it so turned out, 8 hours later, it did turn out the developers were like, oh yeah, we just turned that on by accident. They were able to play in the game, they confirmed it was a real thing. Xbox One and PS4 crossplay happened for the first time ever, but it had been turned on in an error with a configuration issue in their servers. But to me, this is the most ridiculous thing in the world, because previously it was Ark, a pretty big game. Again, a lot of people compare it to this Fortnite game, but basically the game Ark had confirmed that it wouldn't take too long to get it running. They said not more than a few days, and that seemed like it was like, oh yeah, a few days. That could be them exaggerating to try and get it done, or it could be that seems like a bit too much. To me, it was always the second one, but in this case, it seems there was literally just a setting on the server that they accidentally had turned on, and that had enabled Xbox One and PS4 crossplay. And just this one thing happening by accident really shifts the conversation, because you gotta bear in mind, this whole time, people figured like, oh yeah, it's gonna be really tricky to have PS4 and Xbox One working. Like, how do you deal with their IDs, and how do you deal with like people seeing other players online, and all these big issues, like, oh, they're different networks, how do they connect? But this confirms that it's not like there's two separate walled gardens that you have to have this giant mesh of wires going between to make work. No, the way you have PS4 and Xbox One crossplay is you just have to get permission from Microsoft, and you have to get permission from Sony, and Microsoft has given that permission very publicly to pretty much any game. I mean, they're mostly focusing on Minecraft, but they've also, given it for Rocket League, and essentially I believe any game that asks them, they will give it to. However, Sony, on the other hand, has responded every single time with some non-reason. So at first, they just kind of said like, oh yeah, we're not doing it. When they were pressed for a comment beyond that, they're like, oh yeah, well, Minecraft, it's they have kids in that game, and we want to keep the kids safe. Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, that's totally it, guys. It's kids. We're keeping the kids safe. However, then Phil Spencer came out and said, no, we're Microsoft. We own Minecraft. We want to keep the kids safe too. Nintendo, oh yeah, they really don't care. But no, you just, it's a non-reason, and they essentially backpedaled on that and said, oh yeah, we were just, coming up with something. There are really good reasons, we swear, we just won't tell you, which is ridiculous to hear from a company when it's something this big about a game that big, Minecraft in that case. But it also was confirmed just a couple of weeks ago that Aaron Greenberg, he's the head of marketing for the Xbox team in Microsoft, basically confirmed that they were still speaking to Sony about crossplay, and they do partner with them in Minecraft and other sorts of things. They want to have one community to unite gamers. They said a lot of stuff, and they've been going public every month or so and saying something like, yep, we're still talking to Sony, and that means there are still talks and engaged, there's still talks going on. However, in response to all of this, it really should be on Sony to say, what is your official reason? Just tell us if you want it to be like, oh yeah, we think because we have the largest platform, we don't benefit from crossplay. I think that would really be a dick move when we're talking about a game as big as Minecraft, which is going to be the first game to unite every platform, except it's just not PlayStation 4. But whatever, if that's their reason, they should come out and say it. They shouldn't just keep making reasons up and then not responding officially. And, you know, if they want this to be the case, they just need to say something about it. Whereas right now, they're leaving all the players in the dark. They're leaving their own platform players in the dark, just in the off chance that, like, again, I think it really shows their lack of faith in their own platform, because if there was crossplay between all the platforms, you should want it to be that, like, oh yeah, well, if Sony platform, you know, players can speak to Xbox One players, they might convert them over. Imagine you speak to your friend on the PlayStation Network and he says like, oh yeah, I really like my PlayStation and this or that feature. Instead, they're scared that somehow Xbox One users will convert them over, or that they'll lose sales because someone will buy an Xbox One instead. And that's such a ridiculous thing, in my opinion, that I just don't get it. There's no particularly logical reasons besides trying to abuse their position as like the market leader. And I think because this happened by accident, it shows that it's not this big deal where they have to commit all these resources and they're just not sure if it's worth it. It's just that they haven't given permission, and I really hope that at some point in response to this, they at least say something. You know, that's what we're looking for. And I think again, this really forces their hand, like accidentally being turned on. 8 hours later, they had to turn it off. I imagine you're legally obliged in a contract with Sony that you cannot have crossplay. But I think the fact that they're like going through this much effort just to stop something that's that easy to go through is gonna have to then be reversed at some point in the future, or it's gonna have to be explained in some way at least. And I'm looking forward to that. And I think it's a big deal for Minecraft on the console, because if this, actually, if they finally, reverse their stance because of the public pressure, which by the way, Echo's big petition got 10,000 signatures. They didn't respond to that either, by the way. They just ignored it, like, oh yeah, well, I mean, just because 10,000 people want it, I mean, what's that about? But yeah, we're hopefully going to get something from all of this, because Sony are starting to look more and more like the bad guys every day, and that's not the position they want to be in, and it's not the position they should be in. Sony aren't the bad guys, they're just being, awful on this one issue. But anyway, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like if you liked it, share if you liked it, subscribe if you're around here, and like I said, I'll be playing Fortnite Battlegrounds. It's basically the Battle Royale. If you want to see that, I'll be streaming that later today. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!